Good afternoon, everybody. Pigskin Pete here. Happy Thursday to everybody. I am a man of the people. I give the viewers what they want. And what I'm giving them today is a reaction to this fiasco that we saw yesterday between Alabama players, Clemson players, and ultimately our favorite troll, Paul Finebaum. Now, I want to just go out, preface this by saying that I don't think this is that big of a deal. I do, however, think this is backfiring on Alabama a little bit. And I honestly think that after this whole thing was over yesterday, I don't think that Nick Saban was probably very pleased about this whole thing. So we'll get into all that now. Let's just start with Paul Finebaum here, because this is where all the heat's coming from because of the things that Paul Finebaum is saying. Not so much what the players are saying, but what Paul Finebaum is saying. And here's what you have to understand about Paul Finebaum. If you don't know this already, which I'm sure most of you do, he is the world's biggest college football troll. He's been very successful at it. I don't think that he even really believes half of the stuff he says, but he has made a living on his radio show and his TV show throughout his career at poking fun at players, fan bases, and ultimately entire college football programs to get a reaction. And I guarantee you, because of this exchange that he had yesterday, and really throughout the entire offseason this year between Clemson fans and himself, is going to drive his viewership up because Clemson fans continue to fall into this trap with him and take him seriously when he knows exactly what he's doing. Now, I do think he screwed up a little bit here because it's one thing to go after the fan bases. It's one thing to go after grown men who are coaches, but to publicly call a college kid statement stupid or call him stupid is not a good look for him. And we'll get into that in a second. Well, let's start with the origin of this entire thing. This started with linebacker Dylan Moses for Alabama making this statement. Let's read it together here. Blah, 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 blah. The quote starts with, "It was more preparation. I wouldn't say they were a better team." Also said, "Georgia is definitely the hardest team I have played in college." Now, on the surface, that's really not that bad what he said, okay? But what the insinuation there is because let's take in context here. The context of this is that he was being asked about Clemson, right? He wasn't being asked who's the hardest team he played in college. He was being asked about the national championship game and why they lost. And basically what Dylan Moses is doing here is taking a shot at Clemson, saying that they were not the better team than Alabama, and they weren't even better than Georgia last year. Which, if that's what he believes, that's fine. I don't think anybody, who watched the game can say that's true. But that prompted a reaction during ACC Media Days, which was happening simultaneously with the SEC Media Days. So Dabo Swinney and Nick Saban, or Clemson and Alabama, both had their day on the same day yesterday. Now I was watching this closely. And the first few times that offensive lineman John Simpson for Clemson was asked to respond to Dylan Moses' quotes, the first 2 or 3 times he took the high road. He really did. He said, well, he's entitled to his opinion. Obviously we think we have much respect for Alabama. We think that Alabama is certainly one of the toughest teams we played. And, we just feel like we were the better team on that day, taking the high road. But of course, during these media days, you're going from one interview to another all day long. You're being asked these questions over and over and over again. And I think after 4 or 5 times of being asked that question and 4 or 5 times of him taking the high road, he eventually took a shot back and said, well, to be honest with you, I think that Notre Dame was the best team we played all year. And as a matter of fact, the scoreboard proved it. Okay. Now, should he have probably taken that bait and instead of taking the high road like he was originally? Probably not. But it is what it is. He did. Okay. Now, it should have been left there. I don't think, first of all, that Dylan Moses should have said what he said. I don't think that John Simpson probably should have responded in the way that he responded. But he was defending his team and his coaches and his fans in doing so. He wasn't the aggressor. He wasn't the attacker in that situation. Now, on top of that, the reaction after that is, of course, from our favorite, sports broadcaster, prognosticator, and troll, Paul Finebaum, says something that he probably shouldn't have said. And he says, I don't normally criticize college kids, but I think that was one of the stupidest things I've ever heard. This is where I think it backfires for Paul Finebaum, because you don't want to get into a situation where you're bashing a college player for defending his team. That's not a good look, sir. It's just not. Now, this will not hurt Paul Finebaum in any way. Again, like I said, his ratings for his show today and in the coming weeks are probably going to go through the roof, because there's going to be a lot of angry Clemson fans out there. They're going to watch, and a lot of, just in general, fans from other football teams across the country, they're going to watch today and then these following days following the media day coverage to see how he responds to, all the backlash he's been getting from Clemson fans. And that's going to only help him. It will not ultimately hurt him. In my opinion, it does hurt his image a little bit and his credibility, because, look, you could, like I said before, you can go after fan bases all you want. You can go after coaches all you want. Players should be off limits. And I think that really the death nail in this was Trevor Lawrence's reaction to this on Twitter. He tweeted out today. He basically just quoted Paul Finebaum's tweet in his quote and said unprofessional. And that really says it all. It was an unprofessional thing to do. Well, I mean, again, it won't hurt Paul Finebaum. He probably could care less. He's probably loving every minute of it. But it was an unprofessional thing to do. Now, if you just look at the actual facts of this, because the facts are really all that matters to me. Listen, I get it. I understand all the trash talk back and forth between the players and the fans. That's to be expected. It's going to happen. I don't take 2 minutes out of my day caring about that. But if you don't look at the actual facts here, what John Simpson said about Notre Dame can be backed up by facts. Now, do I believe that Notre Dame was a better team than Alabama? No, I don't believe that. But the scoreboard says it was. Now, you may believe that Georgia is somehow a better team than Clemson, but the scoreboard did not back that up. So there are facts here that come into play. The fact is that Alabama got lucky to beat Georgia. Alabama had to come back, and if it weren't for that botched punt or field goal, whatever that fake thing was they tried to do at the end of the game, Georgia might have beat Alabama. Now, if, on the flip side of that, Clemson owned Alabama from kickoff till the clocks hit zero in that national championship game and beat them by 4 touchdowns. When Clemson played Notre Dame, the margin of loss was less for Notre Dame than it was for Alabama. Those are facts. So what John Simpson said was actually not that far out of bounds compared to what Moses said, in my opinion. The reason I think this could backfire on Alabama, in a way, is because everybody has been coming down on Dabo Swinney and Clemson for trying to make themselves out to be little old Clemson, these underdogs that nobody gives any respect. And everyone's saying, you guys just don't know how to handle success, right? You keep trying to make yourself this underdog when clearly you're not an underdog anymore. Nobody's taking you seriously anymore with that crap. But then this is what you get. You get the team that you stomped making excuses and saying that, no, they weren't the better team. And then you get the bigger names, some could say the biggest name in college football media, Paul Finebaum, piling on top of it, giving Clemson all the fuel it needs coming into next season when it shouldn't have any reason to be considered to be the bully, the bullied kid on the block, the underdog, giving them that fuel that they need to go out there and play with fire next year. So this was a bad idea. It's going to backfire. Now, does this mean that Clemson's going to go out and win a national championship and beat Alabama or Georgia or whoever? Even if they do get to the national championship, does that mean they're going to go and repeat and do, stomp everybody like they did last year? That's not what that means. That's not what I'm saying. But do not poke the bear, or in this case, the tiger. This is why I think that Nick Saban's probably not too happy about this. I'd be surprised if he was. So, it is what it is. And then, of course, Paul Finebaum will say, well, Clemson fans don't know how to win. Well, I don't know if anybody's, let Paul Finebaum know this, but to the victor goes the spoils. It goes both ways. Yeah, you win with class and you lose with class. Making excuses, and in fact, not only making excuses, but taking shots at the team that destroyed you, trying to diminish it, is not losing with class. It's classless. Let's call it what it is. I'd be surprised if a lot of Alabama fans weren't upset about this. I'm going to tell you one thing right now. Again, what fans say is totally above board because fans are crazy. We're fanatics. But if the roles were reversed here, and Alabama destroyed Clemson 44-16 last year in the national championship game, and then Clemson's players went to media days this year and said that Alabama wasn't the better team and, another team was better, that, the tougher team to play that year, I, as a fan, would not be happy about that. With my own team, I would not be happy about the Clemson players saying that at all. That's just me. So, there you have it, folks. That'd be the last I talk about it. And here's my advice to Clemson fans out there. Don't respond to Paul Finebaum. Just troll him. Do what I do. I go on his page and just troll him. Don't try to legitimize what he says or argue with him. You're not going to win an argument. That's what he's looking for. Just troll him. It's much more fun and it's much easier. I'll see you guys tomorrow with a bunch of new content, by the way. I got a lot of stuff going on tomorrow. Have a great day. Pigskin Pete checking out.